Coming into this tournament, my expectations were honestly pretty low. This is my first tournament in over 20 years, and I've only been back bowling at this point about 10 weeks after that 20-year break. And this is my first adult tournament ever. On top of that, I had never bowled with this partner before, so for me, today wasn't about winning. It was about learning, seeing where I stood, and figuring out if I still belonged in a competitive environment. The thing that I didn't expect, though, was I didn't expect to spend the entire series bowling against a PBA pro. For most people, game one is always the feel-out game, especially after a long break from competition. Your muscle memory comes back quicker than your confidence does. I started out with my Phaze II, standing around 30, throwing it over 15. This is my baseline look. Something I trust when I don't know what the lanes are going to give me just yet. Early in the game, my focus wasn't strikes. It was tempo, balance, and repeating my pre-shot routine. I wasn't trying to force anything. I just wanted to see how the ball read the lane and how forgiving the pattern was. During this game, I struggled to string strikes together, but I kept the game clean. That was my biggest focus. This was a lot of strike spare type of bowling, but I always try to go back to my fundamentals: spares for cash, strikes for flash. And that may not look super exciting, but clean frames get you in the conversation, especially early. What surprised me was that I was keeping pace with Shawn Maldonado. I grew up bowling against him in youth leagues, but he stayed with the game and went on to the PBA. At some point during this game, though, I realized I wasn't intimidated. I wasn't rushing my shots. I wasn't overthrowing the ball. I wasn't trying to crank it. I wasn't trying to put more speed behind it. And that's usually how nerves show up. And it was weird. It was a weird feeling, like those nerves just weren't even there. When Shawn finally did double, it didn't feel discouraging to me. It actually felt motivating. That's when I thought, okay, I can do this. I can compete with some of the big boys. So for me, game one wasn't about score. It was about belonging. After game one, we moved 3 pairs of lanes down the alley. And that kind of lane movement forces you to adapt quickly. So game two, I stayed with the Phaze II and played that same initial line. There was very little transition early, which told me the pattern was holding up. I opened with a messenger strike, which is always a good sign. It told me I had some room and I had some carry. By the third frame, I had a turkey and my confidence was high. But confidence in a tournament is fragile because everyone else on my pair of lanes was striking too. Both Shawn and his partner were throwing it really well. And as you'll see at the end of this game, they eventually both shot 300 this game. And when two guys throw 300 on your pair, transition happens fast. So I spent a lot of time watching their ball motion, especially since they have higher rev rates than me. The thing I was trying to pay attention to was what happens if they miss in, what happens if they miss out, and how quickly the lanes actually responded. For me, every frame was about locking into my pre-shot routine, slow everything down, reduce my variations. Now, I did make a few mistakes. I pulled a couple shots and I missed a couple tough spares, which is extremely frustrating. But past experience has taught me something important in moments like this. Don't panic. This is what your pre-shot routine is for. Clear your head and make the best shot that you can. The 10th frame was a bit chaotic, to say the least. People were crowding the lane and congratulating the 2-300 games, so there was a lot of noise and a lot of distraction. And I had to consciously shut everything out. So I got a strike on the first ball, a strike on the second, and the fill shot was a good one. I just left a ring 10. But I walked off that lane proud of how I handled all of that pressure. The pressure of bowling against two people shooting 300. And then the crowd of people around in that last frame. For game 3, moved to the last pair in the building. Now, this set of lanes is pretty tricky. There's a door nearby that lets humidity and changes how the lanes actually play. And because this is my home center, I knew I'd have to stay ahead of the transition. So starting out, I adjusted left, standing around 35 and throwing over 17, and I stayed with my Phaze II to start this game. First frame was a strike. The shot looked good. Second frame, 9 spare. Wasn't terrible, but a few frames in, I could tell that the ball was starting to read early and the back ends felt super jumpy, and a couple of pulled shots that I did confirm that. One went Brooklyn, thankfully, only left a 5-pin, and you can put your hands down. No beer for you. But that shot told me something important. There was hold in the middle, but the ball was getting too early. In the 4th frame, I made a ball change to the Equinox Pearl to get the ball down the lane a little bit cleaner. First shot with it, absolutely flushed it. That adjustment right there changed everything for the rest of this game. This is where knowing your center matters. Knowing when to put a ball away, not because it's bad, but because it's done its job. And after this switch, I ran 4 in a row and stayed committed to the move. I left a ring 10 in the 8th, but I stayed focused on keeping the frame clean. and a strike in the ninth, and suddenly I'm standing on the approach for the last frame of my first tournament in 20 years. I took a second to take it all in. I told myself 3 good shots. Overall, ended the game with a 234 with a 639 scratch series. Walking out of the center, I felt good about how I bowled. 639 felt solid, but honestly, I didn't think it was good enough to cash. And a few days later at League, I was handed prize money, and that was a really cool moment for me. More than the money, this tournament gave me confidence that I can compete, and confidence that I'm still just getting warmed up. This was the first step back. And 2026 is where I start taking competition seriously.